Hey there guys, we're going to be going back to Clash of Wills for another rank 1 clear on the Selachimoth. You may have seen that they extended Clash of Wills for another week, which allows us to go in here with some new units like Melissa. So we're going to use this video to showcase Melissa a little bit. Also, because the Clash of Wills is open for a third week, we now have access to Abigail's VIP coins, which allowed me to max her out. And as far as Melissa, I went ahead and grabbed her fragment bundle so I could get her to EX2 because I really wanted to do this clear with Melissa and she had to be EX2 for this clear to work. Also, John ID has been wanting to see Cloud in more Clash of Wills, so I'm going to take Cloud to Clash of Wills just so people can see him. I still think he's not the greatest addition in Clash of Wills, but he's usable, people want to see him, so we're going to take Cloud to our rank 1 party. So, let's go in here and do a clear. Also, just for the sake of challenge, I'm going to go for a turn 6 clear. So we're going to kind of like speed it up quite a bit, which is definitely going to make the fight harder than it needs to be. So this is more of a showcase video and less of a guide, although I will have a turn chart in the comments and all if you really want to follow it along. Anyway, let's go in here and do a rank 1 clear, showing Melissa in action, even though this isn't really the best fight for Melissa. You know, she doesn't have any of the killers, we can't use darkness. We're mostly going to be using her as a morale battery and to speed up time for A2, allowing A2 to use Hateful Blade more often. Okay, so on turn 1, Roberta will just do aquatic and insect mitigations, as well as her shifted Magnus for the modifier buff. Melissa is going to do Shelga, as well as shared immunity and chronic flow for the morale gain. We're going to use Abigail to do the usual. We're going to methodical mitigation, contingency plan, and drone cover. Then Cloud is going to seal the boss on turn 1. He's going to imbue himself with fire. He's going to do You're Out of Luck and then True Triple Slash. While 2B and A2, 2B is going to shift at LB and A2 is going to triple offensive heal for the morale gain. So we're going to go ahead and send Cloud and then send these, and this is mostly a setup turn. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again, turn 1 is extremely random. There is a good chance our Abigail dies, and I've got to try this again. If the boss does too many Mystic Forces, there's 2 Mystic Forces. A third one probably would have killed Abigail. Thankfully, he only used 2. You know, I've seen in previous videos, people are saying, I'm copying your video exactly, my tank is dying on turn 1, WTF. It's random, it's completely random. I don't show when the videos don't work. So it may take you 2, 3, 7 tries until the boss doesn't spam Mystic Force on turn 1 and your tank survives. It's completely random how many times the boss does it. You can build a party that will survive even the worst case scenario, but this party will not. We're not using things like Chizuru's 85 mitigation on turn 1. Anyway, that turn the boss did not use the maximum amount of Mystic Forces, so we're going to continue. So now Roberta is going to go to the base form, and we're going to do Morale Fill. We're going to imbue the party with fire, and we're going to do Mega Breath to unlock triple cast, or quad cast. Because we're going for a quick clear. I think I mentioned that we're going for a turn 6 kill. So we have to speed this up a whole lot. Thankfully, because Melissa is a really good morale battery, it's helping out with that. So we're going to now use Melissa to do Minutes of Might for the stats, the LB buff, etc. And then we're going to do 2 different killer buffs. It really doesn't matter because all of these killers are irrelevant, but they fill the morale gauge. That's all we're doing that for. Now, Cloud Strife will do his base form LB. Before we do that, we're going to use the mitigations, anti-magic and anti-physical on Abigail, and we're going to do drone decoy. So at this point, Abigail is now safe. She has no chance of dying anymore. We've got all the mitigations up. So turn 1, we're fine at this point. We're going to go ahead and with 2B. Now, if 2B's LB was not almost full or all the way full, you'd go to the base form in R40. Because our LB is filled, we're going to just stay in the shift and triple her bolting strike in the shift form because those fill morale gauge. The base form one does not. The base form one fills the LB gauge. and we're going to triple offensive heal with our A2. And we're going to try to cap Cloud's base form LB. It's a little tricky to cap, but we're going to do the best we can. It's very long. So, and go ahead and chain it up, and hopefully I capped it properly. Because we do want a little bit of damage, because again, you know, we're going for a speed clear. We got to go quick. So we almost filled morale gauge all the way. If Melissa was EX3, you know, at EX3 she auto-casts more morale per turn. We would have had a turn 2 maxed out morale gauge with basically just Melissa on the party. Like, no one else is really a big morale battery here. We're getting a little bit of morale from Abigail, a little bit from the near units, but most of this morale is exclusively coming from Melissa. Like, she is just big boy morale in that gauge. Anyway, this turn the boss doesn't have a defense and spirit buff, so we're going to go ahead and do some bursting. We're not going to push the threshold. We're going to burst the best we can right now. So we're going to go to the base form with with 2B, and use her base form LB. We're going to use A2 to do Hateful Blade. Oh, we can't Hateful Blade. It's too quick because it's turn 3, and A2 is a dummy and can't do it until turn 4. That's where we use Curse of Immunity Melissa to speed up time on A2. Now we can do Hateful Blade, and we can burst earlier than usual. We're going to use the SLB of Abigail. That's mostly for the big sword in peril for Roberta, because she doesn't have a good sword in peril on the party. And we're going to go ahead and quad Mystic with Roberta. And then Cloud Strife is going to go to the shift form. And now he's going to start capping with his morale skill, which is True Infinity's End. Okay, wait for all the animations to finish. I don't want to bug the game, because if you open the morale gauge while animations are going off, it'll frequently soft lock your game. I wish they would fix that bug, but they haven't yet. Anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of burst, and this is not our big burst. This is just like a moderate burst. So we're going to send Roberta. We're going to wait just a moment for the chain to build. We're going to send our near units, and we're going to go ahead and cap that with Cloud and do a little chunk of damage, and the near units will come in and hit. There we go. That's fine. Perfect. Okay. Now the morale gauge is completely maxed out. The boss is doing his thing. We don't really care. We've got a 100,000 point barrier thanks to Abigail's auto-casting. You know, Abigail is pretty good for her own Clash of Wills. Okay. Now we're going to get set up. Now we're going to go ahead and push the rest of that threshold. We want to push the 50 threshold on this turn. That way, next turn, we can deal with the Mirage. So we're going to go ahead and do the attack and magic buff again. Melissa will go ahead. Now, go ahead and look at your... First of all, let's have Roberta. Roberta is going to refresh the aquatic and insect killer, and then she's going to do Draconic Triune to refill the LB gauge. Now, if 2B needed more LB gauge, Melissa could fill it with Bard Darkja, because every cast of Bard Darkja is a 10 LB fill for the party. We don't need it, so we can just use healing. Honestly speaking, we don't need healing either, so we literally need nothing from Melissa this turn. Well, that's fine. Anyway, let's go ahead and use the SLB of 2B. Now, because this is janky frames, we're just going to send that and let her do her thing. We're not even going to try to weave that in or anything. We're just going to leave it be. You know, have fun with it. Let's go ahead and have Abigail triple bolting strike. We're going to shifted LB with our 2B, and we're going to have Cloud cap that again, and this should push the rest of that threshold. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Wait. Cloud's cap is very, very quick. And there we go. So we didn't hugely overpush, but again, this is more of a show-off clear and less of a guide. You know, we are kind of tight on our timing and all that. It's definitely a high-end clear, so, you know, a 9-turn clear is a lot smoother, a lot easier to pull off. But anyway, we did it. Okay, so Melissa literally doesn't need to do anything, so she can just, like, you know, in case your LB gauge wasn't filled, you can bar Doctor 3 times, which is what I'm going to have in my turn chart. Anyway, we push the threshold, so now the boss is going to get a 10 stack of Mirage, which is pretty irritating, to be completely honest here. But we're going to deal with it. You know, the boss does like no damage anymore after turn 1, so we don't really care about all that. Okay, so we need to get rid of the Mirage. So we're going to get rid of 4 stacks of Mirage with Abigail, who will just use the Barrage materia. And we're going to get rid of 4 more stacks with Roberta, who will do Mega and Triple Mystic just to get rid of 4 stacks of Mirage. That's 8 stacks of Mirage gone at this point. Now, we're going to want to use Hateful Blade again next turn for the big burst. So we're going to use Melissa to SLB on 2B, and that is going to give us Hateful Blade ready again. But we're not doing it quite yet. Let's have 2B go to the base form, and we're going to get set up again. Wait for all this to finish. The barrage, because I actually do want to deal a little bit of damage here. Cloud Strife is going to go to the base form, and we're going to do triple bolting in the base form. That's going to get rid of 2 stacks of the Mirage, and the 3rd stack will be gone with, and then we can deal a little bit of damage to push the boss closer to dead. Let's go ahead and attack and magic buff. Now we're going to swap the near units to their 150 amplify for the big burst. So we're going to use True Charge, Supreme, and R40. A2 is going to Inorganic, Yorha, and Finisher, and Cloud will just chain his thingy. And we'll go ahead and chain all this up. We're going to go ahead and click Cloud first to make sure he gets rid of the Mirage stacks, and then we'll chain this up. Whatever. It's fine. We did it. Okay. Here is some more attacks on the boss, and the Mirage is gone. And turn 6, the boss doesn't have an attack, a defense or spirit buff, so we're good to finish off the boss. And now we're going to do our 2.5 or better. This is going to be our final burst. Wait for all the autocasting to finish. A lot of autocasting. So once again, we're going to go ahead and just use the SLB of Abigail. This is just to give a bigger Sword in Peril for Roberta. Cloud's got a 40 Sword in Peril from, as you can see, 40 from his own LB, and then the near units have 35 from 2B. So really, Abigail's SLB is just giving a 30 Sword in Peril for Roberta. Anyway, now we want to use another trick of Melissa. We're going to use her modifier boost with seconds of support on 2B. That's going to double dip on 2B and add a 120 higher LB mod for her. So now we're going to use 2B's LB. Let's go ahead and do the 400% attack and magic buff for the entire party. Let's do Hateful Blade yet again, our second time within 6 turns with A2. Roberta will quad Mystic. And Cloud will once again do his morale thing. True Infinity's End. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and send this. Then we're going to wait. Send this. And then go ahead and cap. And that should have been a 2.5 or better. Let's see. 3.5. We overcapped by 1 billion. So, big overcap. There it is. 90% of the morale came from just Melissa. She boosted 2B's modifiers a huge amount. And she did some time magic. Kind of neat. You know, this is, again, not the greatest Clash of Wills to really show off Melissa because, you know, wrong killers, etc. But as you can see, this is the damage breakdown. So A2 was a really good damage dealer because we got to use her Hateful Blade more often. Normally, you would only get 2 Hateful Blades the entire fight. With Melissa on the party, you can get up to 3, actually possibly more, but at least 3 Hateful Blades in the Clash of Wills with Melissa on the party, which is basically a 50% overall damage gain to A2. It's a pretty big deal. Of course, we killed the boss on turn 6. We only had time to do 2 Hateful Blades, but that's why I really like things like time magic. I'm calling it time magic. I'm talking about the cooldown reduction. You could also use it more defensively, and you could use the cooldown reduction on something like your tank to get more Omni covers for 90% mitigation, stuff like that. So there's definitely ways you can take advantage of that time magic. Also, real quick, I've seen so many comments about this. When I'm going to show you the gear in a second. When I'm showing my party's gear, I'm showing the gear with no modifiers turned on. So let's go ahead and show what I'm talking about. Like right here, when you look at my Abigail, she's got 10,600 unbuffed spirit. Here, I'll show you even on the equipment screen. But when you turn on the modifiers, a lot of people are comparing your stats with all the mods turned on. When I usually don't show my party with the modifier state. With the modifiers on, we're at 7,900 spirit. So when you're comparing your team to my team, keep in mind, I always do my gear showing at the baseline. So no modifiers turned on. So, don't turn on the mods and then compare your stats to mine, because they're going to be very different, because this Clash of Wills changes your stats. Anyway, with no modifiers turned on, this is the party. I mean, we did an all modifier clear, but I'm showing you the gear with modifiers turned off for simplicity's sake. Anyway, here is our party. So, Roberta, in the base form, using the double-handed sword. Now, I'm doing this for the maximum possible damage. We did a billion overcap. You don't need this much damage. If you don't have the Dark Vision sword, you can use like a double-hand katana and get a 35 sword in peril from someone else, or just, do it the way I did. So here's the gear we use, a little bit of chain speed because she has a tag chainer, and then obviously this because it gives magical killers, which is great. And then shift form is just for morale fill. Auto break, we're not breaking on turn 1. We need auto break. So auto break on turn 1, some auto fill, etc. Melissa is dual wielding Wilk's card for more morale gain. It turns out that Melissa's card cannot be dual wielded. So Melissa's card adds 400 morale per turn. Dual wield does not work on Melissa's card. Wilk's card is a dual wield card. So Wilk's card adds 350 morale per turn per weapon. So if you're dual wielding, Wilk's card is 700 morale per turn. Melissa's is only 400 no matter what. So we're using Wilk's because it's better. There you go. Other than that, literally kind of whatever. Just basically, who cares? It really doesn't matter. Her stats are irrelevant here. All that matters is her kit, and there it is. Cloud Strife in both forms, basically, are mine's only EX2, so there it is. But he is maxed on everything, and we're using Cog's card. Don't have his own. Maxed on Aqua and maxed on Insect, and he was okay. I actually forgot to compare or show or talk about it on that window. I think Cloud did like, 1.8 over the course of the fight, whereas the near units did like 2.1 to 2.5. So not super far behind. Cloud did get 5 bursts, though. He did his LB on turn 2, and then we got 4 caps of Infinity's End on turn... I'm sorry, no, only 3. Yeah, we capped Infinity on turn 3, 4, and 6. Turn 5 doesn't count. He was helping break Mirage. So he did okay. He was okay. The reason I'm kind of not a fan of Cloud is because, really, all he did was damage. Like, at the very least, A2 filled the morale gauge on turns 1, 2, and 3. Cloud didn't really do anything except some damage. It was okay damage. It was decent damage, even, you could say. It just was just damage. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's move along. 2B is just LB damage versus everything, and she's maxed on everything. Or I think she is. She might be a little bit short on the killer. I don't know. Let's find out. Maxed LB, maxed Aquatic. Nope, maxed on everything. Maxed Insect. There we go. And shift form, same thing. Using her own katana, because A2 is using the Dark Vision's katana. There it is. And I think A2 is a little bit short on one of the killers. So there it is. I think she was short on Insect, right? Aqua maxed Insect. Yeah, 275 Insect. Pretty close, but I couldn't quite get it all the way. So there you go. And then Abigail, Blizzard Orb for counter, some fire, and light resist. We only need 280 or better, or 270 or better. I forget. Because we're using the resist buff from Melissa. So there we go. And then I gave her Barrage to help break the stacks of Mirage on turn 5. And then the Charlotte card. Anyway, there was just a quick look at Melissa. We took Cloud for John ID. We're probably going to be... I'm probably not going to do much more with this Clash of Wills, but I am looking forward to the next Clash of Wills that I would assume is going to be much more tailored to Melissa specifically, and we can really show off her dark support, her healing reduction, all that kind of cool stuff, the dark imbue. All of that was just totally worthless on the current Clash of Wills. This one, all she was basically the entire team's morale in one unit. And that by itself was pretty good. But, yeah. And whatever. She's a decent unit. I'm pretty happy with her. I'm very sad about the pulls, but, we did get her to EX2, so we're good at this point. I don't think we need EX3. At least not yet. Anyway, see you in a bit.